This time on Dreddit.
Am I the a-hole for reporting fraud? I'm an audiologist and I do work for the Veteran Affairs. I, personally, feel that hearing loss claims are ones that fraudsters erroneously select the most, thinking they can just ignore the beeps and get some quick cash. This guy comes in with a claim for hearing loss. Now, to be clear, you don't need to be deaf to get money from the VA. You can have normal hearing that shows a decline over time and still get a rating. The guy is doing fine. Hearing is looking normal. Then we get to a point and he basically gets everything wrong. So I call bullshit and tell him that his hearing is normal. I know what he's doing and he needs to cut it out so we can finish the test. He apologizes. He does look a little nervous, but he says that the small space he's in for the test is triggering a panic attack and that's why he jacked that part of the test. Guy was a submariner, so I'm not buying his claustrophobia excuse. I note in his record that I think he was being non-compliant with the test and potentially trying to manipulate the results. That's usually all it takes. This guy, however, within a few days of the test withdrew his claim. I suspect he withdrew his claim because I called him out rather than just making a note, and he didn't want my accusation to turn into a fraud investigation. This kind of pissed me off. I'm tired of people trying to cheat the system. My brother-in-law is a Veteran Affairs special agent, so I called him to tip him off to this guy. He tells me that it isn't going to go anywhere because 1, the guy withdrew his claim, and 2, proving he tanked his test, or tried to, would be somewhat difficult, as his lawyer would almost certain argue he actually did have a panic attack since the rest of the test was perfectly normal participation. He suggested I just let it go. I chose not to. The guy is employed as a police officer. So I called the misconduct tip line for his department and basically laid out that he was trying to cheat a compensation exam. An investigator contacted me and thanked me for my tip and said they may need to subpoena some records if they find enough to warrant more investigation. My brother-in-law is telling me that I fucked up big and I shouldn't have done basically any of the things I've done aside from making the note in my report. From my standpoint, if more people stepped up and actually vigorously pursued fraudsters, then there would be less fraud. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for telling my friend's cousin the new guy she's talking to is not real and a scammer? My friend has a cousin I've met a handful of times and I do get along with her very well, and recently we've had to spend more time together due to my friend getting married. My friend describes her cousin as someone who is desperate to be in a relationship and never has had an actual one, even being in her 30s. So 2 weeks ago my friend briefly mentioned she heard that her cousin was talking to a guy on Tinder. I was naturally excited about this for her and asked about him when I got a moment alone with her. Unfortunately, everything she told me made it seem like a complete scam. I am someone who watches different scam baiters on YouTube. I know a lot of the common themes. This guy she told me about was in the army who just happened to get deployed urgently to Syria right after talking to her. So I started to tell her about how there is multiple scammers that use that same backstory and tried to show her how to send him a link, and if he clicked on it she could see his actual location. Someone also overheard us talking and he happened to be in the military, and he pointed out a few holes in his story too. Then the following week I seen her again and had asked how it was going, and she told me that she was very angry with me and had many confrontations in her head about how I was wrong. However, then she tells me that her friend pointed out that his name he told her and what's on his uniform in the picture don't match. Also, he just so happened to lose his wallet this week, and she said, I'm worried because of what you said, but what if he did lose it? I tried to teach her one more thing, how to reverse image search, but she also didn't care for that, so I just dropped it and wished her well. I'm like 100% sure this guy's a scammer, and it would suck if her money gets taken, but that's replaceable. But if she realizes the guy that she's been spending so much time on is just after money, it will crush her. Am I an asshole for telling her this?
Am I the asshole for reporting my mom for identity fraud? I and my GF put in an application to rent a condo and found out my mom borrowed $43,000 with my social insurance. I talked with a lawyer and he tells me I can either report my mom for identity fraud or pay it off, or declare bankruptcy. I confronted my mom and she begs me not to do it and just pay off the debt. I don't have anywhere near that money and decide to do what the lawyer recommended. The lawyer told me filling out the police report is not the same as pressing charges, but I'm still scared what might happen to her. We used to be very poor and she used my social insurance to pay the bills and provide for me and my brother. This feels like I'm betraying her and my brother refuse to speak to me. My relatives all stopped talking to me. Am I the asshole here? Edit. People are asking me if my mom or family could pay it. I don't think so. My mom is on social assistance and my family isn't much better off. My grandma has a house but I'm not asking her to sell it. Also, my lawyer said a police report is just to get the ball rolling on clearing up the debts and recovering my credit. It doesn't include her name, but I'm sure if they tried they would figure out it's her. My mom might face charges but it's unlikely she would get jail time. Edit. People are asking why she didn't put the loans under her name. She's got terrible credit and has declared bankruptcy before. I don't know if my brother has checked his credit. He blocked me on WhatsApp, FB and his phone. Edit. To clarify, she probably didn't borrow $43,000. It's probably $10,000 to $20,000 that grew with interest, fees, etc.
Am I the a-hole for pressing charges on my daughter for fraud? Me and my wife recently found out that her daughter, my stepdaughter, though I consider her close enough to my own after having raised her for 18 years, has taken out about $60,000 in loan debt under our name, without our permission. For some basic context, she took out a Parent Plus loan for school, under our name and social security number, without asking us. In her first semester of her freshman year, she did come to us, asking if we would fill out the paperwork for her, since her school's loans were only for about $5,000 for the whole year. We explained that we didn't have the financial means to take out a loan for the amount she was requesting, about $14,000 a year, but offered to help her find scholarships or work study, and other ways to potentially help her cover her costs. After me and her applied for about 5 to 10 scholarships, and she got a part-time job, she never came back to me and my wife with any financial aid concerns again, so we figured that she had largely figured it up. We brought up tuition a couple times, but every time we'd ask, she'd just say that she was able to cover it all, and didn't need any help with it or anything. Come us, a couple years down the road, we've gotten a letter from the Department of Education saying that our loan has gone into default, and has been so for about a year at this point. We reach out to her school and, after a little bit of digging, we discover that after we had told her no on the loan, she had gone around our back and applied for it all online. She filled in her own contact information instead of our own, and the loan went through just fine, since she had the correct social security numbers and all. We've spoken with the school and the Department of Education a fair amount about this already, and we basically have two options for this. We can either eat the loan, and pay it all back ourselves, something not at all financially feasible for my family, since we have about $40,000 in medical debt on top of this now, or to go through the state to press charges on each one of the 5 loans she's taken out, each loan being over $10,000, making this a felony in my state with a minimum prison sentence. At this point, I'm not certain what my family can do. We don't have the money to be able to pay this loan back, but me and my wife are emotionally wrecked at even the thought of pressing charges against our own daughter. So, here's the important question, Reddit: if I press charges here, am I the a-hole? Edit: since there's a little bit of confusion, a bit of clarification. A plus loan is a loan that we would take out in our own name, to give her extra funds for education. Because we would ordinarily be the ones taking it out, she's not involved with the repayment process at all. She's not even technically eligible to make payments towards it, since it's under our own name. Edit 2, I promised myself I would never do anything stupid like this if I ever had a post blow up, but now I truly understand what RIP inbox means. I really truly would like to thank everyone here for their support. I know Reddit is one of the few places I can make a post and expect to get a reply. In reality, even though I've gotten a huge outpouring of support saying I would not be the a-hole, is that a thing? I don't know. If me and my wife go through with this, I'm still 100% split about how I actually want to go. You guys have given me a lot to chew on, and I'd really like to thank you all.
You